Hello and welcome to another episode of Topical on the Games We Never Play network.
This week we have our first ever interview with lead game designer Spenser Starke for the upcoming silent RPG Alice is Missing. And I'm the one doing the interviewing.
In addition to the news that we normally bring you, we also want to take some time this week to shine a light on both the BIPOC and LGBTQA members of the tabletop role-playing community. So, let's get to it. PaizoCon 2020 went online, as many cons either have or will this year, but that doesn't mean there's any shortage of news to come from it. Among other things, they announced the Abomination Vaults, their first 3-part adventure path, followed quickly by Fists of the Ruby Phoenix, a worldwide test of martial arts and magic held every 10 years, also available in 3 parts. Bestiary 2 for Pathfinder 2nd edition was released fairly recently, but wouldn't you know it, Bestiary 3 has now been announced for March of 2021. And the Lost Omens Ancestry Guide has a whole bunch of new character options for existing ancestries, as well as a few new ones. Last but certainly not least, they also announced a brand new beginner's box for Pathfinder 2nd edition, so if you want to learn more about any of these, check out paizo.com or the links below.
And speaking of beginner boxes, FreeLink has announced the release of new box sets for the Tales from the Loop and others. Get in on the ground floor with some great games and get some top quality shelf decoration to match.
Tabletop gaming has seen a renaissance in the recent past that has introduced it to myriad new voices and creators. A recent article on Medium spotlighted a number of creators and influencers from the African American community, and we highly recommend you check it out at the link below this video. Featured, among others, is friend of GWNP Avery Iyengar, who you can hear on past episodes of the podcast. What's more, there are 4 separate bundles on DrivethruRPG right now to support Black Lives Matters, as well as spotlighting the work of African American creators. If you have the ability to donate to a cause, we highly recommend donating directly to any number of great organizations. However, the DTRPG bundles will allow you to not only support some of these groups, but also support your fellow gamers and creators.
We have a post up at the Games We Never Play website that will let folks help if they are looking for a way to do so. We have a new logo design that is only available for June, Wrap Month. So if you're so inclined, swing by and see where your support can go. Keep in mind that if you do order anything from our TeePublic store, all profits will go to charity. And last but certainly not least, we wanted to draw your attention to a cool new Kickstarter for a collection of LGBTQIA themed Pride dice. The Kickstarter will fund the production of 5 11-piece Pride dice sets based on the asexual, bisexual, lesbian, non-binary, and pansexual Pride flags. It's already doubled its goal, has 3 weeks to go, and we're very excited that it's doing as well as it is. I know I need me some of those lesbian dice.
Today we're here with Spenser Starke to talk about the new tabletop game from Hunters Entertainment, Alice is Missing, which is a text messaging-based tabletop role-playing game. So, Spenser, you were the lead game designer on Alice is Missing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this thing has been my baby for about a year now. I first sort of had the idea of creating a silent role-playing game. That was kind of where all of this started, was me sitting down and going, what could I do to sort of use silence in a unique way? I'm fascinated by the way that technology has allowed us to connect with one another. Especially things like even what we're doing right now, we're on a Zoom call and we're able to actually have a full conversation despite there being a global pandemic, right? Like, it's amazing to me that we're able to still kind of have these discussions. Like, these kinds of things are really interesting to me. And so I also sort of wanted to combine that into the game. And at the time, COVID was not a thing. This was back in October-ish of last year where I really started to like get it ready for playtest. I thought that there would be something really interesting and engaging about playing via text message. I'm especially looking at something like instant messaging back when I was a kid, and that being a really big part of me growing up and talking with my friends and pretending to be more confident and more am more sure of myself than I was in real life. And so that ability to put on that mask sort of tied into role playing as well. So I started out with that kind of concept, right? How do we create a game that captures that teenage angst, captures that ability to put on a mask, but also is sort of in the meta game, providing a way for players to be able to hide behind a screen so that they can be more connected. And in a matter of months, by October, it was ready for playtest, and I brought some friends over, and I was like, I have no idea whether this is going to work. And when you play the game, you'll see that once you start playing, there's no GM, there's nobody in charge. The game basically runs itself. So I had no idea if the whole thing was just going to fall apart completely and be utter trash, or if it was going to work. And luckily, after that first playtest, I mean, there were obviously things that we were like, okay, we changed this, we'd modified this, we lengthened the game a little bit from 60 to 90 minutes. Like, there are things that, that first playtest really informed of us, but I knew that there was something there.
What are some of your story inspirations that you had for this game?
Yeah, so with games, I think one of the important things to get newer players into a game is to provide touchstones. When somebody can go, oh, this is this and this combined, right, and sort of pitch it that way, people who like that kind of thing will tend to gravitate towards it. So for this, it was very much Life is Strange, Oxenfree, Firewatch, Gone Home. Those were certainly those games changed how I viewed video games. They are doing a lot to move the medium forward in saying this isn't just video games aren't just a medium where we pick up a gun and shoot a bunch of stuff, right? Video games aren't just something that is mindless and unemotional. Like, video games can have power. They can have stories that can impact you in incredible ways. I feel like the RPG industry is a little bit behind even video games. RPGs are generally viewed as, we're going to go in and kill stuff. Mm-hmm. Kill monsters, take loot, right? Go home.
And murder hobos.
Murder hobos. Look, and perfectly, like video games, perfectly fine if that's the kind of game you want to play. But I think as a medium, we can push the RPG community forward, right? The design community forward by saying, no, we can talk about serious topics. We can have, these kind of intense emotional games.
That's because literally when I first saw the art for the game, my first thought was, oh, this is that good Life is Strange stuff. And my first thought was, well, now I need to play it. I love Life is Strange.
Good. I'm so glad.
The thing you just said, I'm like, this is exactly why I was interested in the game, because I am a big fan of storytelling. I'm a big fan of finding ways to tell stories, even if the game doesn't always allow for it. Like, I've played D&D that's heavy roleplay, which isn't always what D&D is going for. Right.
It's not intrinsically baked into the design, which is okay, but is a choice that was made consciously by the developers.
Yeah, because they were like, well, you want to hack and slash, because like Gauntlet and arcade games were very big at the time.
Yeah.
So were there any unique, weird challenges you ran into trying to design a text messaging game?
So many. The biggest thing was that you are in character the entire game, which means, and don't tell anybody I said this, but it's kind of a LARP. Don't tell anybody, because they won't let me put it out. If anybody finds out that it's kind of a LARP, they won't let me release it, but it's kind of a LARP. What that means is that you have to set up everything at the beginning of the game. Right? Before anything happens, you have to do this workshop where everybody's on the same page. And then once the game begins, obviously you can have out-of-character conversations if something needs to be addressed, right? And this is something that comes up a lot in we try and do our best to address safety concerns at the beginning of the game and use safety tools to keep people from feeling like they're getting into territory they don't want to, especially in a game about a girl that's gone missing. There is this concern about how do we make sure we play this game, feel things, but stay safe, keep the player safe. And so that's one of the big ones. And we address it up top in the very beginning of the game to make sure that's all, on the table at all times. But besides that, you're not really communicating information between players out of character. With that comes the challenge of how do we create a system that basically runs itself, which is why it uses cards. During the game, you're turning over a card, you're reading the prompt, you're doing what it says. It gives you the directions. Making sure that all worked and worked like a well-oiled machine, no matter what cards you drew, no matter what characters you chose, no matter what decisions you made. That was the biggest challenge, and that's why I playtested it so much.
Had you done a crowdfunding game before? What was it like getting to crowdfund this and the anticipation of like, oh, get this money to do the thing?
Absolutely. So crowdfunding is, for me, consistently the scariest part. Last game that I released to market was Icarus, which is a game about how great civilizations fall. And so that was a Kickstarter, and that was sort of my first taste of game Kickstarters. I'd done Kickstarters in the past for projects in school or whatever, but the goal was always $1,000 or $2,000. This was, a $10,000 goal, which that was definitely nerve-wracking, like terrifying, because it was the first time. With this one, it was less nerve-wracking because I wasn't afraid that we get to 10,000. I was fairly confident with the amount of playtesting I did and getting the word out to people that we probably hit 10. The nerve-wracking part for me about this was that this is the game that has been the closest to me.
Something really exciting about this game, though, is you were like, we'll get to 10K, that'll work out. You got to 60K in the first week.
Yeah, that was a little bit unexpected and mind-blowing. I think we're currently at, let me see where we're at. Yeah, we're at 77 as of right now, which is just ludicrous, just absolutely bonkers. I never would have imagined that this thing would have gone that far. I honestly, when I was developing this thing, I was ready to just sort of release it online as its own thing and just be like, okay, well, if somebody wants to download it or whatever, I guess they can play it and I made print and play cards or, I just didn't, I had no concept of how this would be received in any way. And then the first day we funded in less than 3 hours, and I was like, all right, well, guess we're in for a ride. I don't know if this is just a fluke or what's happening, but I just am so incredibly thankful and humbled and amazed at the response that it's had.
Finally.
Sure.
Where can people find the Kickstarter, and how can people get their hands on Alice is Missing? I know it's the Kickstarter phase, but how can they do it?
So the game is available. Will be available digitally in July. So it is coming very, very quickly, and we're doing everything that we can to get it into people's hands as soon as humanly possible. Because it is a game that plays well with isolated people, plays well online, plays well via distance. So alicesmissing.com, ALICEISMISSING.com, will take you straight to the Kickstarter page. As of right now, backing it there is your best chance if you want the physical game. And for me, even though a digital game is available, and that's the only way to run it with friends right now, the minute I can play it physically again, that is absolutely my preferred way of playing. I love the tactility of cards. I love role-playing games that have sheets and things that I can put my hands on. You have the option on the Kickstarter to either get the physical or the digital, or you can get both. And we hit one of our stretch goals that is also allowing us to make an app for the game. So that is currently in development right now. There's going to be more details released hopefully soon on how the app will actually function. But that's really exciting for me because it means that it's going to be much more accessible to people. It's going to run them through setup and be able to have them play the game a lot easier than if they did without it. So
thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, thank you.
This was super cool. I'm super excited, and I know in July I'm going to get a copy of this game.
Yeah, I'm happy to run it for you when you do. Let me know. I will run you guys through it.
That's it for this week, and if you want more game-related content, make sure to check out the Games We Never Play podcast, where this month we are featuring a cast of luminaries playing Glitter Hearts, ran by our own Stephen Pope. Available wherever finer podcasts are downloaded.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at GWNP_pod, Facebook under Games We Never Play, and if you're so inclined, you can find us on patreon.com/GWNP.
We appreciate your tuning in. We're stronger when we stand together, and we stand with all of those impacted by social injustice.
Take care, be well, and get home safe.